Thank you so much for joining our session today on MS Build 2020 updates. So before we get started with, could you please go ahead and confirm whether you can see my screen and hear my voice well? If you can just confirm that on the chat, we are good to go. Awesome. Thanks for that. So the certain housekeeping points before we get started with our session today. First and foremost, please keep yourself muted throughout the course of the session. It's quite possible that when you're joining your session, you might have kept yourself unmuted, but please be mindful about that and make sure that you're keeping yourself muted because we'll be recording this session and we do not want any background noise disturbing the recording. So questions are good. We are most welcome to questions, but we would really appreciate if you can park the questions towards the end of the session, right? Now that doesn't mean that you're not allowed to ask questions while the session is progressing. Say for instance, if any speaker is talking about a topic or when he's showing a demo and you have a question about that, please feel free to post that in the chat so that later when the session is done, we can go through the questions and start answering your questions. So from this meetup group, we have a lot of webinars going on. I believe we have almost done like close to 30 webinars by now. So, and we'll be continuing to do a lot of webinars. We are also planning a complete MS Teams developer learning series starting from next week onwards. So for all those events, if at all you want to be a part of our webinar series, be a part of our meetup, this is the URL. Please click on that and please be a member. We have a lot of exciting stuff that we have planned. And today's webinar is recorded and we'll be sharing the recording as well as the slide deck by maximum tomorrow morning. That being said, let's get started. Our session today is going to be on MS Build announcements for Microsoft 365 services. And that is a main reason for us to do a session of this sort, because if you take a look at the MS Build conference, which happened a couple of weeks back, there was a lot of updates which was given, and it is a pretty exhaustive list. So it's quite complicated for anyone to go to all those updates and stay on top of it with the busy work life that we have, right? So what we thought is, from the Office 365 and Power Platform meetup group, so we thought that why don't we create a session which focuses only on the Microsoft 365 announcements, so that you folks can get benefited from that and sort of understand so what is that we from Microsoft are doing to empower developers more. And for the first time, we have 5 speakers. So I'll be hosting this session, and then followed by me, we have 5 speakers who will be presenting the updates from their end. And this is how the agenda is gonna look like. So uh, Microsoft Team updates will be given by Narasimha Perumal, and then we have SharePoint updates, which will be given by Nandip Nachan. Followed by that, we'll be talking about Microsoft List and Fluid Framework updates by Kirti Prajapati. And then we have the identity piece, the Microsoft identity updates will be given by Manoj Mittal. And last, we have the remaining updates, Yammer and sort of other services which we have in Microsoft 365. So updates on that side will be given by Vijay Anand. So we're good to start. With that, I'm going to hand over the floor to Perumal. And before we even give it to him, we have this book of news which speaks about all the updates which was rolled out for, in Microsoft Ignite this year. I'm sorry, in Microsoft uh, Build this year. It has a complete list of the updates which was given to Azure, Microsoft 365, and so on. So when I'm sharing the slide deck, I'll also be sharing this along with that so that you folks can go through this at your ease. All right, over to you, Perma. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll stop sharing.
Yeah, Vignesh,
Yeah, I can see
are
your
you able
screen and
to?
hear you well. Yep, yep.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, this is Narasimha Perumal Chandramohan. I co-founder of GG Technologies Private Limited. And my company provides a solution for Teams migration and Planner migration, and also provides productivity solutions on top of Office 365. And today I'm going to share the updates relates to Microsoft Teams in build announcement. So the very first one is resource specific consent, and it is my favorite update in build. So whenever if you want to use any Teams Graph API in Microsoft Teams app, you need to use the permission called group.rewrite.all. What by providing this permission, you are providing consent to the application that it can read the entire site collection in SharePoint Online. It can read the planner plan details. It can read the entire team. So all the workloads in group can be read using these permissions by providing the permission group.readWrite.permission. But in my app, I just need the permission to add the channels, or I want to list down of the channels present in a particular team. So my requirement is very specific thing. But in group.readWrite.permission, to use that permission, your tenant admin needs to provide the consent. So the apps built using that permission, there are a large bracket. The adaptation of the teams of get blocked due to this permission. But with the introduction of resource specific consent, uh, you can request the permissions, very specific permissions. I have listed down the 14 permissions that are available as of today. So you can see I can have the permission for channel.create.group, or if I can get the permission for deleting a channel, creating a channel, or reading the channel messages alone. So I can have the specific permissions. And also to use this resource specific consent permission, you don't need the tenant admin consent. The team owner can provide the consent for the app. So that's the another beauty of resource specific consent. But still, the IT admin gets the controls. He can specify who are the owners who can provide the consent to use resource specific consent. Like that, they can still the IT admin can control. So on one side, we are delegating the permission to the team owners, but still the IT admin has the control. So in the screen, you can see on the left side, there is a Teams app where it uses the earlier model, that is group.redirect, where the tenant admin needs to provide the consent. And on right side, you can see the app which uses a resource specific consent, where the team owner provide the consent for the app they want to use. There he can request the specific permissions. In this case, you can see the app want to read the messages in the team alone. And then the second update, it is also your favorite update. So Azure AD SSO. So even though your Teams app uses Azure AD authentication and your app has been added as a tab inside a team, still your users need to sign in using the Azure AD authentication. Even though you are using Azure AD, still you need to sign in using Azure AD. But with the introduction of Azure AD SSO, your apps no need to sign in again. And currently it is going to be available for the tabs alone. And then later this year, the bots will get this feature. So this is going to be available in both desktop and mobile also. And then the other updates, the developer updates, mobile device capability. So coming soon, later this year, the Teams app can use the mobile specific capabilities like camera, location, microphone. For example, if you are developing an app for insurance, the insurance agent can go to a particular incident place where he can tag the location, and then he can capture the picture using the camera, and then using his microphone he can log the details for that particular incident. That's going to be available later this year. And then App Studio update. App Studio is an app for Teams app. It is an app available inside Teams app, inside Teams. So using App Studio, you can build manifest for your Teams app. So suppose if you are developing a Teams app and if you want to submit it to the marketplace, Office 365 marketplace, what you need to do is that you need to build the manifest, and then you will be going to the marketplace. That is the partner center where you will be submitting the Teams app. And then it will goes to rigorous validation process. The validation process usually takes 1 to 2 weeks of time. So suppose even with a simple mistake, your app might get the validation get failed, and you will be making some other changes and you will be submitting again for the validation. So again, it will take 1 to 2 weeks of time. So the number of iteration and the time taken for a app to go to the market might get a longer time. So with the recent update in App Studio, what they have introduced that you can do the pre-validation checking, like whatever validation checks the submission team does will be done by the App Studio itself. So by using this validation pre-validation checks, uh, you can reduce the number of iterations and also you can reduce the time for your app to go to market. And then Visual Studio, and already we have Visual Studio Code extension for Teams has been released. It is already available. So using this code, Visual Studio Code extension, what you can do is that you can build the manifest, you can do the pre-validation checks, and also you can submit the Teams app that you have built directly uh, to your team catalog, to your organization team catalog. And then earlier we got the update for popping out of chats of both the one-to-one chat and one-to-n chats. Already that is has been rolled out. So coming later this year, you can pop out the apps, you can pop out the channel tabs and also the chat tabs. And then the update related to adaptive cards. So with the update on adaptive cards, you can do the at mention and the adaptive cards. So it is one of the long time ask to at mention a person in the adaptive cards that has been going to be available. And also you can have rich text block in the adaptive cards. That's the another update. And then related to activity feed, you can fully customize an activity feed as per your need. You can change the logo, you can update the text preview, text location and everything. Even you can make the settings, what needs to happen when you click on that activity feed. That's also going to be possible. So earlier we have the message accents, which is available in both the Teams, desktop and web. Using message accents, what you can do is that you can go to a particular team conversation, go to more options on a particular team conversation, and then you can go to more accents. There you can do any app, third-party app specific accents. Suppose if you want to create a task, or suppose if you want to create a write task, if you want to create a Trello task, whatever it can be, you can go to particular that more accents and you can do that. That is earlier available only in desktop and web client. Now it is going to be available in the mobile also. That has been shown on the first screenshot, the left side. And then the personal apps. So here we already have the support for personal apps in Teams desktop and then the web. Now we are going to get the support for personal apps in mobile. Personal apps are nothing but the Teams application focusing on interaction with a single user, such as one-to-one conversational bots or personal tabs. So now we are coming to the Graph API related updates. So we are going to get a new subscription API, Graph API in the beta endpoint. So using the subscription API, what you can do is that your app can create subscription or the notification webhook kind of things using the subscription API for different type of events, like whenever a new message has been posted in a channel or a message has been edited in the channel or a message has been deleted in a channel or a new replay has been created for a existing message in the channel, or if a person is making some reactions like or something, the reactions, everything, whatever action it can be. So you can create subscription for those kind of specific actions. So where you can use this subscription API, it can be used in a Teams app related to data loss prevention policies. Suppose if you need to create a Teams app where you want to make a note of what is the suppose if a user has edited a particular team conversation, you want to know what is the original message, what is the edited message. So in such kind of scenarios, you can use the subscription API. And then the updates related to v1.0 endpoint in Graph. So earlier we have sent channel messages API available in beta. Now it has been moved to v1.0 endpoint. So now you can use the send channel messages API. Using this API, you can create replies for existing channel conversations. So since it is available in V1.0 endpoint, you can readily use this in production environments. And also the Swift Graph API has been moved to V1.0. And then the updates related to the Teams lifecycle management experience. So right now to so to submit Teams apps, with this update, if you want to submit a Teams app, you can use the App Studio or Visual Studio Code. It can be Power Apps or even it can be SharePoint. So you can submit Teams apps for review to your IT admin from various trusted sources like App Studio, Visual Studio Code, etc. So once you submit to your IT admin, he can review the app and approve it. So, so from various places you can submit the Teams app to your organization catalog, Teams app catalog. Similarly, the IT admins can manage all the apps. It is not specific to organizational app that you have developed. It is for all the apps, all the third-party apps, all the Microsoft apps, all your organization apps. From a single place, he can review all the apps that are added in the new team environment. He can review it. He can review the permissions that are required for each app, and if required, he can reject or approve the app. And also coming soon, the IT admin can purchase the subscription for the Teams app from the IT admin. Suppose if you are using any third-party app which requires to purchase a subscription, so this is going to be supported soon. So these are the updates related to the app lifecycle management. And then now we are going to speak about the IT Pro controls that we are going to get in Teams. So earlier using Azure AD conditional access, what you can do is that suppose if you want to uh, deny an SharePoint site from an untrusted device, you can use the conditional access and you can do that, really do that. So even if he access the SharePoint site inside Teams, it will be get denied. That has been shown in the left side screenshot. Suppose as an IT admin, if I want to allow the access of the SharePoint site from Teams tab, even though it is an untrusted device, but still I want to provide the access from a Teams tab, I can do that using the new Azure AD conditional access. It is going to be available soon. So now comes the templates, customizable templates. So Microsoft is going to provide the customizable templates. So you are going to get by default some templates like for hospitals, for event management, etc. So so when you create a team using the template, you will be getting a pre-configured channels with the apps, everything got added. So once the team has been created and if user is going to that team, he will be provided with a guided tour. That's possible. And then as an IT admin, you can create the templates for your organization also. So you can create your custom templates for your organizations from the Teams Admin Center. That is also possible. And these features are going to be available later this year. And then bookings in Teams. So this feature is already rolled out. It is currently available. So using Bookings app in Teams, what you can do is that you can have staff members or the schedulers in your company to create various kind of appointments. For example, the appointment can be for an interview call or an appointment for a pre-sale call or an appointment for a support, or it can be for any virtual consultations in a hospital. It can be anything. So yeah, schedulers, a staff who is off role scheduler can schedule various appointment types. So here what he does is that he will select a particular appointment type, and then for example, if a HR person want to schedule an appointment for the interview process, what he can do is that he will be selecting the appointment type called the interview, where he will be adding the internal employee who will be doing the interview process, and then he will be adding the external attendees for the interview, and then he can customize the reminder mails. The reminder mail can be varies from 3 weeks to 15 minutes of time. It can be customizable with the various customizable message also. So the staff member can create the various appointments type, and then he can schedule the calls. So both the internal organizational employee and the external attendee can join and do the Teams meeting itself for the interview call. That's possible. And then in hospital, the staff nurse can schedule virtual consultations for the doctors with the patient. That's possible. It is already available. And then finally, the Power Platform updates regarding to Teams. So in Power Automate, you are going to get team specific triggers. For example, it can be whenever a team has been created, a team has been deleted, a channel has been created, a channel has been deleted. Those kind of specific triggers related to Teams itself. So you will be getting triggers specific to Teams in Power Automate. And then from Power Apps, so whatever Power Apps you have, if you want to add a Power App, particular Power App as a Teams app, you can do with a single click. So inside Power Apps, you will be getting an option to add this Power App as an app in Team. So if you just do a single click, you will be taken to the Teams where you will be selecting the team and channel to add this Power App as a app in Teams. And then similar to Power App, you will be getting option in Power BI also to add a particular report to Teams using a single click. And apart from that, suppose if you are posting any Power BI reports in a team conversation, what it does is that it will be showing you a thumbnail of that report, a beautiful thumbnail of the report as a preview in that message. And then related to Power Virtual Agents. So here also you can add a Power Virtual Agent as a bot in Teams with a single click. So these are the resources of whatever I have discussed related to Teams.
All right. So
okay.
Thank you, Perumal. So thank you, Perumal, for all the updates on Microsoft Teams. So a couple of things on what Perumal showed folks. So I think a lot of those IT admin issues with the conditional access inside a SharePoint site, that was something which a lot of customers were complaining. So that is one major big change. And specifically the last piece wherein he showed the bookings. So one thing which we all need to be mindful is that comes with an E3 license. So you should be having an E3. And we have in fact did a POC with a couple of hospitals, big brands in India. So I think Fortis or Narayana Healthcare, we have rolled it out. So the solution is already there. But if at all you want to use this with your customers, some of the banks have decided to use this. Some of the hospitals, wherein this entire consulting experience can be made virtual. Just be mindful that you should be having E3 for that. All right. Thank you so much, Perumal. So next would be Nandip. Over to you, Nandip.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, you're good to go.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So hi all, myself Nandadeep Nachan. I'm Office 365 consultant and Microsoft MVP for Office Apps and Services. So we are here to talk about SharePoint updates that has been rolled out for Microsoft Build. So the points which we are going to talk about is how we can host the SharePoint site inside Microsoft Teams, like SharePoint apps inside Microsoft Teams. Then we will talk about SharePoint REST APIs specifically for TermStore as a V2 version. And then we will have a look at new term manager that we have in SharePoint and the content type gallery. So since most of these features are still in preview that there hasn't been rolled out to most of the tenants. I won't be able to demo all of the features to you, but since my tenant is kind of a first release tenant, which I have marked here for everyone inside my tenant, I will be able to show at least 20 to 30% of the demos. Okay, so with that, let's first talk about SharePoint app in Microsoft Teams. So here, let's see how we can take an existing SharePoint site and how you can wrap that up and package it as a standalone application that you can deploy in Teams. So this is great for internet SharePoint sites that you want to package and deploy to rest of your organizations. So for example, if you want to package your SharePoint site inside Microsoft Teams, then we have SharePoint apps in Microsoft Teams. So let's get started. The first thing you want to do is you'll have to just refer to the documentation URL, which is over here, aka.ms SharePoint app in Teams, which is over here. So here they have detailed steps on how you can go through this entire process and make it done. But let's see how we can do. So firstly, that this is only available with the SharePoint modern sites, not with the SharePoint classic sites. So take any of the SharePoint modern sites or SharePoint modern page which you want to host inside your Microsoft Teams. So once you have that particular site, in our case, we are going to use this particular site. Okay, I don't have it open. All right. Okay, so this is the site which I'm going to host inside my Microsoft Teams. So this is again a modern site, modern communication site, which we'll be hosting. So the site URL will be the URL which we want to host inside Microsoft Teams. And then the site path will be the path after your managed path, like /site/SP demo in this case. And the subdomain will be the domain of your SharePoint site or Office 365 tenant. So in this case, it is Contoso. So these are the prerequisites that we will need whenever we go ahead and create that particular app inside Microsoft Teams. So for that, let me go back to Microsoft Teams. So the first thing that I will have to do is I will have to go to the App Studio. If you can't see App Studio inside your Microsoft Teams, then just go to More Apps, search the Team Studio over here and install it. So since I have already App Studio installed, I will go there. Then the next thing is that we will have to package it as an app. So for that reason, we'll have to go to the manifest editor. And from here, we can create a new app. So that app just required few things like short name, full name, and other things. So I will not create an app as such, but I will rather use the app which I have created already. So this is the app which I have created already called as Internet. So the short name, full name, we have to specify. The identification, that means the app ID, it is some kind of an GUID. It is used for the semantic versioning for your versioning number. So if you have any app ID, you can specify it here. Otherwise, you can go ahead and generate a new one. And then you can specify the package name which can uniquely identify your package. In this case, it is just com.microsoft.teams.app. Specify the version. Since this is the first version, we have it as 1.0.0. Then specify some description, short description and full description here. Specify all of your developer information, who will be responsible for managing this particular app. Then again specify the privacy statements, terms of use. If you have any custom icon for this particular app, then you can specify it over here. Once it is done, the second thing is now we want to host it as a tab inside maybe a Microsoft Teams or as a personal tab. So for this particular demonstration purpose, I'm going to host it as a personal tab. So for that, I already have the tab created, but again, it is a simple process. We just have to mention the name, entity ID, again, a unique tab ID in this case, content URL and website URL. So when it comes to content URL and website URL, there is a specific format which we'll have to follow. So we don't have to remember that format. Anyways, you can refer to this documentation. They have this content URL and website URL format given here. So the same thing I'm using inside my tab. So let me edit this. So for this personal tab, the name specified is as home. Then the entity name is just unique entity ID. And the content URL is following the format which I just have shown. So in this case, it is site URL /layouts 15 Teams logon, and then rest of the things as it has been specified into the documentation. And then the website URL is the SharePoint site URL, which you are going to host inside your personal tab. Once it is here, click save, and then that particular tab is ready. But we are not done yet. The next thing that we will have to do is we'll have to go to the uh, domains and permissions, because Teams and SharePoint, those are two separate entities. And now that we'll have to specify or configure the single sign-on for those two entities. So for that reason, we'll have to go to the domains and permissions and make sure that you are adding your valid domain, like the SharePoint site domain here, so that it can be trusted by your team side. Once it is done, you will have to specify this AAD application ID, which is again given by Microsoft, which will help you to create or configure the app for the single sign-on between Microsoft Teams and SharePoint. And once it is done, you will have to specify the single sign-on URL as the URL of your SharePoint site. So this was the last configuration which we'll have to do. Once it is done, the last thing is that we'll have to test and distribute this particular package. So once you click here, if there are any errors, it will get displayed here. So luckily we don't have any errors as of now. So we can go ahead and click install. So this particular personal tab will get installed to your Microsoft Teams. So once it is done, this is the tab which I have pre-configured already. So this tab is now hosting your SharePoint site. So the good thing is that even you can extract this particular tab or export, and again you can import it to some other SharePoint or Microsoft Teams, so that it is a packageable app which you can use. So you can take an existing SharePoint site and package it as a standalone personal app inside your Microsoft Teams. So this was the first cool update that was released in or announced in the Microsoft build, and fortunately it is available in most of the tenants. Here are few of the resources that you can use. So firstly, the resource which has the entire documentation, aka.ms SharePoint apps in Teams. And then, for example, if you're new to the Teams, then you can refer to this particular URL on how you can manage the apps inside your Teams. And again, I have my blog with all of the screenshots and the more detailed information on how you can get started on doing all those things. So this was about hosting your SharePoint apps inside Microsoft Team. So the next very good update from the build, which maybe all of the SharePoint developers have been waiting for, is SharePoint REST API v2 for term store. So these are the APIs that are designed for a basic create, read, update, delete. That means CRUD operations on the taxonomy service within Project Cortex. So the scenarios include providing basic functionalities so that some functionality of the UI for the term store can be built around the APIs. So in addition, the APIs can be used by third-party developers like us, so that they can perform the CRUD operations on the term store. So the scenarios will include creating a term, modifying its properties, or deleting a term, and other scenarios they are also supported. So we can directly use these V2 APIs to create an application against term store. So the 5 major entities that we can define here is store, term groups, sets, terms, and relations. So let's see like how we can use those. So for those, we have new entity types called as Microsoft.graph.termstore.store, then .group, set, term, relation. So this .store defines all of your entity types for term store. This one defines all of the entity types for term groups, which is the top level holding point. And then we have a few entity types which denotes your single term set, term, and the relation between those terms. So for example, if the term has been copied or it has been carried over, so all those relations can be specified in these entity types. So with that, again, we have 2 new permission scopes available to us. So the first one is termstore.read.all. So by name, it also specifies that with this particular permission scopes, we will be just able to perform the read operations against our term store. The second API or the second scope which is available to us is termstore.readwrite.all. Again, this will be used for your entire CRUD operations, by which you will be able to create, read, update, and delete all of your groups, term set, and terms, and even the uh, relationship between those terms. So let's see a demo of this particular functionality. So I already have one SPFX application created, and inside that I'm specifying this scope as termstore.readwrite.all so that I can perform all of those read and write operations. Fortunately, before I started writing this code, I came across PNP.js. They already are supporting these APIs. So I'm directly using those PNP.js capabilities to make operations against term store. So before I walk through this code, let me show you how it looks like. So maybe let me close this. Okay, so at least this is how it looks. So I have one SPFX web part which is calling those REST APIs v2 version for operations against term store. So the first API that we have is for getting the information about term store itself, so that we can access the term store data itself. Once I click, so this is not a great UI. I should have done some efforts here to make it really good looking, but the major intention is like how we can use those REST APIs which are available. So once I click this term store to get the term store data, here we can get the ID and name of that particular term store which I have. So for example, from here even I can go to term store here. So this is the term store I have, and this is the name of the term store and the ID of the term store which we are getting over here. So the next thing is like how we can get the term groups. So once I click here, it will list out all of the groups that I have. So group means that is the first level of hierarchy that we have in our term store. So we have at least 6 to 7 groups specified here, which are being written by those v2 APIs. The next thing is, for example, if you want to get a specific group by its ID, it can be done. So I'm just getting one group from here to get the particular group. Once I'm into the group, the next thing that we can do is using that group, we will be able to get all of these sets or the term sets from that particular group. So I can click this, and now that I just have only one term set inside my group, so it is being written here. So for example, this one, and then there is one more API to get the term set by its ID. So even it will once you give the ID of your term set to it, it will return you the entire information about your term set. And the lastly, once we are to the term set, we can use it to get the further terms. So once I click here, it will return us all of the terms that I have under that particular term set. So for example, these are the terms that I have here, which will be written. And then for a specific operations to get the terms, we can click this button to get the term by the ID. So with this context set, let me go back to the code. And this is a very simple code. Since I'm using PNP.js, it is more simpler now. So I just have these buttons here, which is performing all of those operations. So all these buttons are here. The next thing or major thing that I'm going to do is using the term store data. So to access those term store data, firstly that I'm just using sp.termstore so that it can get the information about the term store which I have inside my Office 365 or SharePoint context. So once it is with me, I can get the ID, name, and even few other more information like who is the term store administrator and other things. So the second thing here is once we have the term store, we can get the term groups. So again, for that we have API which is being internally called by PNP.js, but from that term store we can get the term groups. And once we have those number of terms groups with us, we can iterate through those groups and use them. One alternative way to this is maybe instead of using termstore.termgroups, even you can use this API called as termstore.groups. Even it will give you the same kind of an information. Again, for example, if you want to use a specific group by its ID, in that case, you can use this get by ID function to get the information about that particular term group. So the same thing goes for term set. So because once you have your term store with you, you can get the group, and inside that group, you can get all of the term sets. So once you have all the term sets, you can iterate to it, make the operations. Again, we have one more alternate options available here, just sets. Instead of term sets, even you can make a call using sets. Again, you can get the term set by its ID. Same thing goes for terms. Once you have your term store, you can get to the groups, you can get to the term sets inside that particular group, and then you can get to the terms which are defined inside that particular term set. And then again, you can iterate through all of those terms to make your operations done. The lastly, again, we can use this term set by ID to get a specific term by its ID, and again you can use it. One thing which I want to specifically show you here is okay, the API access, because this kind of operation won't be possible without any kind of an specific API access. So for those API access, we have these two APIs like termstore.read.all and termstore.readwrite.all. So all of these APIs are at the moment available as the delegated or the user delegated application permissions. So once you request for this particular access of this particular API, your admin has to consent that particular access to you or to the entire organization. So all of these API at the moment are user delegated permissions. Okay, so with that, again, let me come back to my slides. So this is only about the V2 version of REST API that we have in SharePoint. But again, all of those APIs will be in the future available under the Graph APIs. So once you open the graph.microsoft.com/GE Graph Explorer, you should be able to see all of those APIs there. And then we will have few of the major APIs like graph.microsoft.com/term store to get all of the information about the term store, and then get the term set details, term group details, and even there will be a few more APIs. So as of now, they are available as a V2 version of REST APIs, but in the future, even they will be available under graph.microsoft.com. Okay. So again, these are a few of the resources that you can use to get started with REST API version 2, along with all of the Graph APIs which are available. And then again, here is a good documentation of pre-release taxonomy Graph APIs which are available. And the code sample which I just demonstrated here is available at this particular location if you want to explore how those V2 APIs has been used. The last but one thing is new term manager. So this new term manager is right now available in the content services section of the SharePoint Admin Center. And this one provides a modern integrated controls for creation and management of the taxonomies and glossaries inside your term store. So, but for example, if you want to switch to this particular new term manager, you don't have to go through the existing global term sets and create them or reconfigure them by yourself. Those will be taken care automatically by this new term manager. So the good thing with this term manager is that they have increased the number of terms which are supported at the tenant level. Earlier it was 200,000, but now that it has been increased to 1 million. So you can get advantages of this increased number of terms supported in the tenant level. So let's see how this new term manager looks like. I already have shown this as a part of my demo, but once you move to this new SharePoint Admin Center, under content services, you should see term store. I guess this is mostly available with most of the first release candidates. So once you are here, you will be able to see all of these groups, term set and terms in a modern experience. So I didn't have to make any move to make those appearing into the new term store manager. Those have been automatically taken care by the update. so that I'm able to see all of those terms here. Again, all of the operations that we use to perform in the classic environment are also supported here, like adding a new term set inside group, renaming the group, deleting the group, and importing the term set. So all those operations are intact, but just that it has got some modern experience. So, but still the old experience is available with us. For example, if you want to still keep using the old experience, you can come to this more features, click term store, and from here you still will be able to make use of the old experience. But I will say mostly use the modern experience that is available with this term store, the new term store. Okay, with that then I'm moving to the last part of my updates. So the next thing that is available to us is a content type gallery, because we have been mostly using the content type hubs and all those things. So it has been now taken into the SharePoint admin center of level, wherein you can manage all of these content types into this new content type gallery from the SharePoint admin center. So these content types will be available across all of your SharePoint sites inside your tenant. So depending on your tenant, when it gets released, that particular option should be available after this term store inside content services. So that option name is content type gallery. Here is one screenshot which makes you aware like how that function will look like. So once you go to this content type gallery, you can create a content type and again specify all of the columns and their types, what we used to do. Again, we can go to the advanced settings, and if there are any templates that has to be associated with your content type, it can be done from here. So this functionality should be rolled out within a month to most of your tenants. If your tenant is a first release candidate, then this should be available with you soon. Um, Again, for example, if you want to manage your content type, it can be done from that particular window. You can go to your content type and you can have the same kind of an experience which you used to have in the classic experience, like adding more side columns to your content types, even defining more templates to your content types. All those kind of operations can be done from here. Just the good thing is that we now have only one consolidated place from where we will be able to control all of our content types, instead of creating those content types inside your SharePoint site, or even managing them centrally from the content type hub. So this is the one good place from where you can manage the entire content types all across your SharePoint or Office 65 tenant. So here are a few resources. For example, if you want to explore more on the manage metadata service and this new content type gallery. With that, I'm done with my updates. So over to you, Kirti, then. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Nandip. Thanks for all these wonderful updates on SharePoint. So, Kirti, you're up next.
Yeah, thanks Nandip and thanks Vignesh. So I'm just sharing my screen and let me know if you can see the screen.
I still see Nandip's screen. Okay. Yep, you're good to go.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So thank you Nandip, and hello and welcome to this MS Build announcements for Microsoft 365 services. And a short introduction, as I am Kirti and I'm Microsoft MVP and working as a SharePoint consultant and architect. So today I'm going to talk about the announcement has been done for Microsoft List and the Fluid frameworks during the MS Build 2020. And the takeaway from this is like how the Microsoft List look like and how we can use it, what are the capabilities of it, and along with that, how the Fluid framework could be used for the developers and how it looks like. So I will walk through all of you with a demo on how to use it, and I will explain few things about the Microsoft List updates, as what is Microsoft List capabilities, then from when we can use the Microsoft List, or the List app will be available in our tenant, and how the home page will look like, and also explain the demo with screenshot. And after that, I will explain you that how the Fluid framework will work through the demo. So first thing is, what is Microsoft List? So it is a Microsoft 365 app that helps you to track and visualize your information, and you can organize your work in a simple, smart, and flexible manner, right? So the best part is by using this, you can also track the issues, manage your assets, routines, contacts, or inventories. So these are the list you can manage, and other stuffs as well, using customizable views. So you can create the customizable views as per your requirement, and create some smart rules, and based on that you can generate some alerts, and using that you can keep everyone in sync. So there is no need to have the manual process. You can create one list item and trigger some rules, and that could be notify your user, and everybody could be in a sync. So along with that, you can also use some ready-made templates to jumpstart common scenarios with pre-configured structures or forms or views and formatting. So that capability is available as well. And you can also customize the views, as I mentioned, that applies rules and sync it with the all the users. And best part is because this is a part of Microsoft 365, so you can rely on enterprise ready security and compliance as well. So there is no need to worry about the security if we use the Microsoft list. And as an evolution on top of the SharePoint list, it is stored in SharePoint site only. And using that, it can be created and accessed from new Microsoft list homepage. The page I'll just explain you after a few minutes. And you can use from the SharePoint team sites within the modern experience as of now. And you can also access from the Microsoft Teams and the mobile app as well. So now this is what is Microsoft list is about. And now I'll explain you a few of the capabilities that we can achieve using Microsoft list. So using that, you can create a blank list, and in blank list, you can define your structure, formatting, and apply your data. And along with that, we have the capabilities to create a list from Excel. So in that case, you just need to upload the Excel, and it will create the table of data that you would like to import. And then you can create a list from an existing list with the same structure, formatting, rules, and alerts. Whatever the information that list have, you can just copy that list and have all the information in the new list. And you can use or you can create a list from ready-made templates that come with predefined structure and formatting. Uh, for example, there are few templates available. For example, track issues, manage assets, then organize events, then save your contacts, then manage FAQs. So those are the few of the samples you can use as a template while creating the list. And along with that, you can create customizable views, and you can create alerts and set a triggers for business rules if you want to notify someone when something happens for the list item or the action item you have created for. And you can also have some conditional formatting for your list or columns, and you can share your list with your team, grant access and manage permissions, same as the folder we are using for. And you can add comments on the list item level. And the best part of this is that these comments are stored within the list schema itself. So we have the capabilities that if you want to add some comments on list item, we have the that option to add the comment. And you can also notify the user once you add the comment, and that user can take an action based on the whatever the comment has been entered. So in that comment, you have to mention that user, that using @username, uh, which could be notified for that specific action. And along with that, you can edit and change the column order in the form itself. So there is no need to go into the list settings and change the order of the or sequence of the column. So we have the capabilities we can change from this form itself. And you can show and hide fields in the form based on the specific condition. If you have some kind of logic that certain users or certain conditions could apply, and you want to hide or show some columns, so you can do that. So these are the few capabilities we can achieve using Microsoft List. Now I'll show you that how Microsoft List homepage look alike. So this is a kind of homepage when we open the app from Microsoft 365 suites. So Microsoft List homepage is a single place to see and manage all your lists. So from here, you can see all the list, manage your list, whether it's your favorite list or a new list item, new list or anything. But this is the single place from where you can manage everything. So to get there, you just need to click on the list icon within the Microsoft 365 app launcher. Once it is available for all the tenant, so you can open that the main menu, and get this the list app is available for you. From there, you can start a list in several ways. As I mentioned, that you can create from scratch, or use some templates, or use some Excel sheet like this. And band creation, you will be able to see all your favorite and recent lists. You can see here the first row is the favorite list, and the second row displays the recent list once you own or that have been shared with you. So everything will be available on the one screen only. So you will be able to create both personal list you own and you can share that, and team list owned by members of your team. So everything can be managed from this screen only. So List Home brings all your list at your fingertips on the web, and you can go via the List mobile app as well, right? So this is all about the. I'll explain you in the demo like how you can use create new list, the plus icon, and how you walk through. So apart from this, you can use this list in Microsoft Teams as well. So Microsoft List is for people who get things done together. So if you want to collaborate few things from list, and the user can access the same list from Microsoft Teams, and everything will be in collaboration, and all the users can be synced with each other. So you can get the real-time information or the real-time data on time. So we can use Microsoft Teams to collaborate on lists using flexible views like grids, cards, and calendars. And that brings content and conversation side by side in one integrated experience. So there is no need to use separate thing for just to complete that functionality or the task. And you can either add an existing list to a Teams channel or create a new list directly in Teams, and chat on individual list items. So you can create the channel or tab one by getting the list URL from the Microsoft list, and you can have that same functionality in Microsoft Teams as well. So now I'll switch to the demo. So quickly walk you through about the demo. So once you have that, let me open that. So once you have your tenant, and then that will be available in this Microsoft list is once the rollout, it is rolled out for all the tenants, your app will be available here. And once you click on that, you will see this kind of page, a single place to manage everything. So once I click on create new list, these are the options that you can have, like what kind of list you want to create, blank list from Excel or from existing, or you want to use the template. So in this demo, I'll just clicking on this event itinerary template, and I want to use this template, and you just give the name of your template, and if in which site you want to create this, just select sales and create it. So yeah, we are good with the list creation. Now if I want to add something numerous for this item, then I just need to click here, add the comments, and I just mentioned that information for the user, and just clicking on it. And after that, I can also execute the workflow. So we have the automate option here. So once I click that, create a rule. The rule is executed when a new item is created for this list item, and you just have to name the user or the candidate who should be notified, right? And click there and create it. Yeah, so we are good with that. So this is how it will look like. Once this is rolled out, you can use any kind of options to create the list and manage by creating some rules and notify your users and achieve your job, right? So this is all about the Microsoft list. So now I'm just moving to this Yeah, and these are the resources you can use if you want to learn more about the Microsoft list. So you can get this all the information from this URL. We have the YouTube video as well. In that they have mentioned all the possibilities and capabilities we can achieve using Microsoft list. So now I'm jumping into the Fluid Framework updates. Yeah, so Fluid Framework is there are a few updates for the Fluid Framework. So it's a modern workplace, requires teams and individuals to collaborate faster and more efficient than even before. So the main fundamental is just to have the individuals and teams to have in a collaboration mode and done your work or get the real-time information. So with instantaneous co-authoring, inline mentions, and customizable components such as action items, tables, or checklists, Fluid Framework empowers team to collaborate in a way that it feels live and connected, no matter where you go. So I'll explain you that in one of the demo. So by using Fluid Framework, we can invite others to collaborate. So you can invite your teammate just to collaborate for that specific piece of item, whether it's action, table, or whatever the component you have shared with. So you just need to use the @username feature to tag your colleagues. And if they don't already have access, a pop-up will appear when you tag them, so you can easily share and keep working with each other. And the second thing is you can work together using that. So Fluid Canvas is live and connected. So it's whatever the information one user is updating or entering, another user can see as a live and connected way. So allowing for near instantaneous collaboration. And once your edits will be visible immediately to anyone else who has access to the file. I'll show you in the demo. And everyone can contribute simultaneously, allowing everyone to fully participate in the meeting and ensuring more perspectives are gathered. So you can use tables or list to track suggestions, and yeah, also you can use the emojis to react to ideas and comment inline to ask questions or give feedback. Along with that, you can also add components, format your content. So there are a number of options available when you are trying to create something. And yeah, to get started, let me walk through how to host a working session with your teammates using Fluid. So I'm just switching to my portal. And yeah, so once you click on, so to get this URL, you just have to select this, the fluidpreview.office.net. And once you enter into the address bar, it will ask you to collaborate, start your collaboration. If you are doing that first time, but I've just created this action items just to demo for this session, right? So you can create this. Once you click on this button, you have this much of options that you can create this kind of uh, action items, tables, persons, date, whatever you want, you can create like this. And once it is done, we have the in top right corner, we have this go to file location option. So once you click on that, it will open your OneDrive, and from here you just copy this link, and I'm just opening my Teams, and I have created one tab called Fluid Framework. So let me create new one for this. I'm just going there, clicking on the plus icon, clicking on websites, then demo. Just have to paste the URL here, save it. Right, so the same interface I have in the Teams, what I can see in this preview. Right, so now I was talking about the live and the connected way the other user can see that someone is updating what value, right? So I am just clicking on this MS list first row and trying to update here. So So you can see the value has been changed in the left side screen as well. If I check this, so it is also check mark here. If I check something from here, it will be available in my Teams as well. So I'm updating something from browser and it should update in Teams as well. So this way we can have this lively connected interface for all the users. Yeah, and one more thing, you can create the new file once you click here, this icon, and yeah, you can create whatever the component you want. You can create tables from here, so you can add something, whatever the values you want to add into the table, and you can share with the users. So from here, top right corner, you can share with anyone. So I'm just sharing with the test user and send it. Yeah, so once the test user logged in into that either into the site or Teams, they will be able to access this the channel or whatever the component I have integrated in. And these are the resources if you want to get started with Fluid Framework preview. Yeah, so yeah, Vignesh, I'm done with
All right.
all the updates for list and Fluid Framework.
Thank you so much, Kitty. Thanks for all these
Yeah.
updates. So next up, over to you, Manoj, sir.
Thanks, sir. I'm sharing the screen now. Hope my screen is visible to all.
Yep, you're good to go.
Thank you. Yep, thank you. So thanks everyone for joining. So I'm Manoj Mittal and working as a senior technical architect in the Mindtree. So here I'm going to talk about the what the Microsoft Identity updates just released or in review during the build 2020. So let's start it. So this is the agenda I'm going to talk about quickly, the why we use the Microsoft Identity platform and learn what's new for authentication library has released and learn what's new for external identity. Okay, so before going further, I will just take a few moments and talk why Microsoft Identity is so important. So we know the way the app builds and way of interactions of the data has changed now, how we are doing in old days. So the long ways, old schools, what we are creating the full trust Windows app access and controlling the all the access management behind the firewall, it has changed now. So in the new words, identity management is a new way of a cloud platform with an open protocol that is auth 2 and the open ID. It's just handling a lot of things for us. Okay, so app permissions, it's just to access the data, consents, the policy management, all handled by Microsoft Identity in the backend. So we should not worry about all these things. Okay, now coming to Microsoft Identity. So before talking about these slides also, we take again, why again, one more time, Microsoft Identity. See, if you see the, now if we are looking, there are a bunch of applications at the cloud platform. And what will happen if all applications need a sign in, and each individuals you need to sign in separately to all the application. How frustrating that is, how annoying that is to remember the passwords for each and every application. Okay, so and what and the problem again comes how we invite, if you are creating any of the organizational applications, multiple organizational application, and want to invite external audience to my partners, they don't have organizational ID, like need to share with a Gmail account, to a face account. How we can do, how we can access the corporate application outside the corporate network seamlessly. So that's why, so there are a lot of new features has released by the Microsoft. So we'll talk about and see the demo. So Microsoft Identity gave us the reduced sign-in, the frictions. Just one sign-in integration, it reached the millions of these users to the millions of applications. No need to sign in again. If all my applications, it just use the Azure portal, Azure AD authentications mechanism. It enhanced the security in the backend. No need to worry about that one. So comply with IT. So it helps the enterprise to securely and compliance the requirements. So IT team from the backend can only manage, no need to worry about all those. It's easy for them also. So to whom, which domains need to grant the access, what type of access need to grant, how the compliance need to, securities policies need to deploy for that. So rich access to the database. Also, like we can use the Graph API, Web API, easily into the using the Microsoft Identity platforms. So now we talk about here what's for the developers comes from the Microsoft Identity platform point of view. So it's giving the one portal to register all our applications. So we can log into the portal.azure.com, go to the app registration, and we can register all our applications at a one place. So it's give some sort of MSL. So that is Microsoft Authentications Library, which gives you single sign-on experience among all the applications if we sign in one time. So if we have multiple applications which is registered with the app registration, then we can use those features seamlessly. Okay, and then it's providing the endpoints with the certified endpoints to the developers to start that one. And web APIs, we can use the Graph API. It support multiple identities. So it's not limited to the organizational. If I'm creating any applications within organizations, my organization fictitious name is like contoso.com. So it's not only limited to that one. We can expose those one. It will go to the my personal Microsoft accounts like the Hotmail account, Outlook accounts. We can integrate with other corporate Office 365 accounts as well as external identities like Facebook and Gmail. So integrations with the B2C, it's possible for that. Okay, and at the end, like it's using the industry standard, that is open industry standard, and it's built on quite rich platform which built on open industry standards. So the release from this is the new updates from the Microsoft. So it's a GA now. It's less MSL is GA for the Android, for the iOS, Python, Java, JavaScripts, and the .NET framework. All these are in fully GA. And these are the few new announcements what they have recently released. So like MSL Angular wrapper is released, and it's available for the Angular purpose and for the JavaScript 2.0. Microsoft Identity Web. So it's quite interesting, this one. So .NET Core 3.0 onwards or 3.1. So we can use Microsoft Identity Web. So it's released their own authentications method, and it's quite simple to use. Okay, so let me move further. So once we create any of the applications using the Microsoft Identity, so earlier we used to see once we get the consent prompt, it comes like that. So that is the new release and the new features they have released. It's just showing the publisher's name here. So it's give us the more confident to the users who is going to use the application, who is the publisher, whether it's certified or not, or it just they have added the blue check marks here. So it says like it has certified with, this is the certified owner of the particular applications. If we need to see the information, we just click it here, we'll get more detail who is the certified owner for this application. So this is a new release, new features they have released. Now, if we come back to this screen, publish, so that it's called published verification. So now when we are creating any of the new applications using this portal, so we are getting here the new option as a publisher verification. So publisher verifications, what it needs is a simple process, MPN ID. So this ID is, it's a verification process. If we have an NPM ID, it's like we have pre-validated all the securities. No need to go through the entire process one more time. If we don't have, then it's quite a easy process. But if it failed or stuck somewhere time, then it goes for a couple of weeks also. But it's always good to have MPN ID, and once we registered and quite fast, we have a validated publishers who is going to publish. So this is the new features they released during the build. So same as a consent prompt I just showcased as in publish verification preview features. So when we are just verifying with the NPN ID, it shows, yeah, this particular organizations or a particular application who built by this particular owner, it's just verified. So it's not like I'm using the application which is not verified or built by any anonymous. Okay, so let me move to the quick demo for that. Okay, so before showing that before going to the more detail, I will just create one simple console application. So I didn't write a single line of code. Everything is available there. Just want to show how we can use our social identity here. So once I click it here, okay, this is the, so it will just prompt me to sign in. So let me check it's running. Yep. Oh, sorry. Yep. So it's prompt for the credentials what need to add. if I don't have a Microsoft account, there is the options is a create new. Once I click on the create new, here we can create our new activity. So you can see here I added a Gmail. Similarly, we have options to add a Facebook. So we can log in with our applications with a Facebook and the Gmail. So this is the new features they released and still in preview, but we are good to go to use this one. Once I clicked on the sign in with Gmail, so it will log in this my corporate applications with my Gmail account. So my cell phone I kept, yeah, coming for verification. I need to accept. Yeah, I accept that one. What happened? It's still running. Okay, anyway, it will accept, might be due to network some issues. Okay, so it will accept and it will log in with a, it's doing, I think we should wait. Yep. Okay, so yes. Yeah, so now I logged in to my applications which I created into the Azure AD with my Gmail account. So you see, I want to see the which email account. So we have my Gmail account. Similarly, we can use a Facebook account, different organizational account, different like my Microsoft personal account. All these activities are available now in preview. So let's move to the demo. One more thing. Okay, so to create all those things, so like we need to log into the portal.azure.com and just moving to the Azure Active Directory sections. Once we landed on this page, there is the app registration. So it's as simple as that. Just few clicks, no need to create anything. Microsoft build, Microsoft gives everything to us in build. So just click on the new registration. So we can give any of the application's name and we can select this application is going to use for my existing tenant only for the single tenant, multi-tenant or tenant with a other Microsoft personal account and just need to click on register. Okay, so that I have already done. So that's why how it's coming up like this section. So once my application has done, we'll just log in. So here you will see once we come up here, to the quick start sections. Now this they have given what type of applications we need to build. Okay, if we are interested into the single page of application, just select this particular application and so they have given the prerequisites for that, what need to do. So we should have a Azure portal subscriptions, we should have a Node.js and Visual Studio code. We'll just download the particular code and proceed for the other steps. So before that, now, so this is the section like how we created this particular applications which is running in the Node.js. It will give the entire code base to us. No need to write any single line of code here. But now the things comes how we can integrate with a social identity. Okay, so social identity point of view. Yeah, so there is a sections here in under the manage external identities. Once I go to the external identities, so it gives us the options if we can connect with a outside organizational entities like we have a Gmail, Facebooks, and other Microsoft personal accounts. So all identity providers here they give by default Google and the Facebook. So if we want to connect with a Google, we just need a client ID, client secret. That's I've already connected with a Google and Facebook. I'll just click it here. So it will give the same screens when I click it here also, and it's looking for the client ID and client secrets. And for client ID, client secrets, so we need to follow this particular steps. We need to go to the developer.facebook.com and we need to register our applications and just say, okay, this is the app ID and app secrets will generate. Similarly, for the Google, it will generate my client ID and client secret. We can just take it, copy paste, and put it here. So that's it. So once we save it, we will get both the social identities in our application. So this is going at the entire portal level. It's not the application specific. Once it's done, we can map these sections to our particular application. So now collaboration settings. Okay, and once we are going to do this thing, so external collaboration setting, this settings is very much important. So we need to enable the guest self sign-in via the user flow. So this is still in preview. If you see all those actions in preview is released into the build. So we need to enable it. So if you don't enable, then the external entities which we are going to integrate like Gmail and the Facebook will not able to work here. Okay, so now next sections in preview is like a custom user attributes. So how the custom user attributes will help once the user is going to log in and their pop-up will appear for a consent. So it asks, we can use those properties once they will sign in. If we need any other information, we can use all these. So we can see all these are the built-in custom built-in attributes is already available. We can create our own custom attributes. So like once the user is logging to the particular application as an external users, we can ask if that user is a supplier. So we can ask, okay, what's your supplier ID? Instead of only taking their email address, the Gmail or Facebook email address, we'll just ask their supplier ID and we can use those details via the Graph API in our custom logic. So now moving to the another sections, it's like a user flow. So user flow is quite important here. So user flows we can define. So once okay, let me open anything. So this is, yeah. Once we define the users, once we go to the user flow, so here we can define the identity providers, what we need to use with our Azure Active Directory sign-in. Identity provider, it says whatever identity provider I have created, it will list it down here. So it's up to us in this particular user flow, which identity provider we need to use. We can select Facebook or Gmail if you want to use both. Yeah, just click on save. So it will be integrated with a particular user's flow. Then this user flow we can map with our new applications what we have created. So let me go back again. Okay, so this is the user identity provider. Here we can define our own custom users attributes. We can define the page layouts. We can define our own languages. It's currently, I think, more than 23 languages are supported here. So coming back to application section, so this section is important. Once we define this users flow, so we need to select which applications we need to map it with this one, where we need the social identities. So for example, I created this section, MS Build, already there. So we just need to select it and just click on select. So it will list it down here. So once we will run this particular applications, it will map it this particular section. Okay, so for example, if I go back and I'll show this one as I created here. So it's only mapped with a Gmail. Yep. If I had it with a Facebook also, as I logged in, it's showing the Google accounts. Once I select the Facebook and click on save, and once I rerun those applications, hopefully Facebook should also come there as a social identity. Okay, so let me rerun this section, go to the view, and it's a terminal. It's already running. So let me go back here. Let me close it, this section, and rerun as a guest, localhost. And click on sign in. I'll just click create new. So you can see the Facebook also came here. So it's that easy to integrate the social identities with our organizational account. Now it's like we can expose our application. Anybody outside my organization can easily use, whether it's a vendor, it's a partner. So only just think those users we need to define in our Azure Active Directory as a guest users. We need to send invite. So once it's invited has gone and they have accepted, we are good to go with those social identities also. Yes, this is the major update announced into the Build 2020 with respect to Microsoft Identity. Yeah, thanks for that. Vignesh, over to you.
Thanks a lot for those interesting updates, Manoj. So Vijay, you there?
Yeah.
All right, over to you, Vijay. Thank you. You're good to go. We can hear you well.
Hi everyone, myself Vijay. I'm a Microsoft MVP and technology architect in Cognizant. So we will see the other updates with respect to Microsoft 365 services. Till now we saw SharePoint, Teams, and uh, Teams and identity management, right? So now what we will do is we will look into Yammer and Project Cortex. Okay, so these are the two updates that we are going to see. So when it comes to Yammer, so what they have done is in during the Microsoft build, they have announced like how we can engage in Yammer discussions directly from Outlook. Basically, whenever you get any notifications regarding the Yammer in Outlook, uh, instead of going and opening the Yammer in a separate browser or an app, what you can do is you can do all the engagement in the Outlook reading pane itself. Basically, what are the things that you can do is you can view, you can like it, respond it, so all those things can be done in the Outlook itself. Okay, so I'll show you a quick demo on that. And currently, this is available only for the Outlook on the web, and this will be rolling out for the Windows, the apps, Outlook app. It can be either Windows or Mac or iOS and for Android also. Okay, so I'll just given the details or resource over here, which you can get into it to see more details. And again, like all these notifications, Yammer related notifications, you need to make sure that in the Yammer you have enabled all the required things based on which you will be getting the notification. Okay, so quickly I'll show you how exactly it works. Okay, for example, I have enabled all the notifications whenever there is anything in the Yammer. So consider that there is a notification. I have received it in my Outlook. Okay, so I'll just quickly show here. Okay, so I posted something in Yammer and I got the notification in Outlook, something like this. Okay, like Yammer updates MS build. Okay, what I can do is instead of I'm opening the Yammer in a browser or a mobile app kind of thing, I can directly like it or comment it. Okay, so I can do everything from the uh, Outlook itself without in the reading pane. Okay, without opening the any other apps, Yammer app basically. I can even share it and all those things. Similarly, like even if there is any poll or questions asked, you can directly do everything, engage with the Yammer thing from the Outlook itself. Okay, so I'm just showing it through the Outlook web, but soon this will be rolled out for the desktop app and the mobile app. Okay, so that's what it is about. So I've just given a screenshot about this, how it exactly works in the Outlook web. Okay, even the poll, if there is any poll that has been posted in Yammer group, for which if you get a notification in Outlook, then you can directly respond from the Outlook itself. So this is one of the update that was announced in MS Build. And the next one is like we'll see a little bit about Project Cortex, and it is in private preview, so I'll not be able to show much demo on this one. So also during the MS build, they have announced that it is currently in private preview and it has been expanded the private preview for almost more than 75 organizations. And also they have some new developer APIs and AI capabilities they have included. Okay. So before, like, I'll just give an overview. What is this Project Cortex and what are the major components are there as part of this particular service? Okay, and then I'll share you the, there are few sessions that has been done during Microsoft Ignite 2019. So you can go and look into those recorded sessions. There are 3 to 4 sessions available, which gives you an overview, complete overview, and what are the things that you can do with the Project Cortex. So basically, this is a new service as part of Microsoft 365, and it's mainly like a kind of a knowledge center kind of thing. Okay, based on the organization data, it brings a knowledge center, it creates a knowledge center kind of thing. Okay, so what exactly the Project Cortex does is it applies the AI capabilities, advanced Microsoft AI capabilities to the Microsoft Graph to create this particular knowledge network or knowledge center. And all these things has been created based on your organizational data. Because on a day-to-day activities, we use a lot of apps or services as part of Microsoft 365, right? Like SharePoint, Outlook, Teams, and other things, where it is all mainly the contents. Okay, so what it will do is it make use of the advanced AI features and create the knowledge center based on this particular data. Okay, based on your organization data. It can be structured, it can be unstructured, and it gets or extract all the important information and also the content types, metadata, and all those things. And once it gets all those things, it organizes those content into a topics basically. So that is what it will be doing it. Okay, it basically delivers the knowledge and expertise of people in the day-to-day app that we are using it. Okay, so if you see here, this is a simple diagram over here. We have the organizational content and the AI, Microsoft AI. What it does is it converts all these two into topics or knowledge kind of thing, and it will be available in the apps that we are using on day-to-day basis, like Outlook, SharePoint, Teams, and other stuffs. Okay. So whatever we were discussing, right, that is what it has been mentioned here. So empower people with knowledge and expertise in the apps you use every day. And basically you organize the knowledge across the systems and teams based on the content that we have it with the help of AI applied to the Microsoft Graph. Okay. So if you see the first one is like, as I was mentioning, right, topics. Basically, the topics can be of anything. It can be a projects, it can be a product, it can of any services or customers, and it can be anything. Okay, so whatever you're seeing here, it's a called topic card. Okay, so the contents are stored in multiple places, right? Majorly in SharePoint, consider SharePoint. Okay, in SharePoint, like you have a page created or you have a content. Okay, where it talks about a particular project or like it can be of any product. Okay, so what the AI does is it creates the topics basically. Okay, so whenever it detects a topic, for example, as part of project core. Okay, so this is talking about this particular content is talking about a specific project called core. So when you hover over that, you can see a topic card which gives you a relevant information about this particular topic. Okay, so what are the resources? Are there who are the experts or people working on this particular topic or particular project? Okay, and all the related topics, all related information, description, overview, everything will be displayed in this particular topic card. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Okay, and again, this topic cards are available in all the apps that we use on day-to-day basis. Like it is in SharePoint, it is in Microsoft Word, it is in Outlook. Okay, it is in Teams and even in Microsoft Search also. Okay, and all these topic cards, it's all automatically created by AI itself. Here there is no nothing like we are doing from our side. It's been automatically taken care. Okay. And the second one is the people card. So exactly like how we saw the topic card, we have something called people card. Okay. So in case in your organization, if you want to find someone based on their skill set or based on their expertise or something like that, so these topics will be helpful to identify those people. Okay, so when you're doing a in the Microsoft search, when you're searching for a specific topic, it also displays a group of people who are working on that particular topic. Okay, so here you can see like all the topics that you're working on or related to, it's all displayed over here in the people card. And also it gives you the capability to add few more, like you can see few more topics like on which you are working, so that it helps others to identify easily, okay, this person is working on this particular topic. In case if they have something, they can easily reach out, right? So this is what it is about people card. So it will have all the topics related to the particular person. And you can see something called topic page now. So this topic page is also automatically created by AI. So first thing is based on the organizational data, you get AI creates the topics, right? So in the first screen, right, we saw something called core. This is basically a topic. So what will happen is this will automatically create a topic page also. So we have seen topic card, people card, and this topic page will have the in detailed or depth knowledge about that particular topic. Okay, where it will have the overview. You can see all these things here: overview, question and answers, resources, documents, the related sites. Okay, so you can just quickly see this. So it is having a people overview, resources, basically the documents related to this particular topic, and the sites related topics. Okay, all these related topics are generated based on with the help of AI and graph and the project details. So it is having a in detail, like a in depth knowledge about this particular topic. Okay, and the next one is it's knowledge center. Basically you have it has created a lot of topics or topic pages, right? In this knowledge center is a common place where all the topic pages will be roll up. Okay, and also other information. Basically it's like a complete knowledge based on the analysis of the organizational data. Okay, and there are few web parts also available which is specific to this knowledge center, which you can make use of it. Okay, so that is what like maximum I can show, because I don't have anything to show it because it is a private preview. But there are 2 or 3 sessions in Ignite 2019 where they would have explained in detail, showed more demo on this one. Okay, and they have given some use cases also. So yeah, Vignesh, that's it from myself.
All right. Thank you so much, Vijay. And thanks to all the speakers for sharing your insights today on MS Build updates. So folks, this doesn't stop here. So followed by this session, from next month onwards, what we have planned is we are planning to do an Office 365 technical update briefing session every once in every month. So in that session, what we are planning to do is see all the updates which has been coming in the previous month or whatever is new. We'll be talking in detail about that. So please keep an eye for the invites from our end. So if you folks have just one more minute, I saw a lot of questions coming up between Yammer and Teams, right? So folks, please always, it's just not you. I've seen a lot of our customers having that confusion. So I thought that I'll take 2 minutes of your time and help you understand how is Yammer different from Teams, right? So because from Microsoft, we wouldn't create two products for the same reason, right? So this is that one single slide which I often show to customers. So Yammer, if you take a look at it, right? So of course it is lightweight. It has a familiar UX. When you look at it, it matches with your LinkedIn or Facebook, and of course it got a lot of this social capabilities such as likes, photos, videos, and all, right? But what really makes it different from other products such as Teams, because often at times I see Yammer being compared with Teams, right? Yammer by default is inclusive. What I mean by that is, for you to join a Yammer group, you don't need an invite in the first place, right? Because in Teams, the team owner needs to make that intentional gesture to invite you to a team group, right? Unless and until it is a public group. But in Yammer, say for instance, if you're searching for an information, and if that information lies in a Yammer community, that so group has been renamed as community, you can still see that information there, right? And it is scaled to reach a big, so Yammer is, just imagine that this is for a widespread community, wherein a Teams is meant for a closed group wherein you and your team members are working on a project towards a common goal, right? The next thing is non-invasive productivity. When somebody pings you on a team, you have to respond back to them with a given amount of time, because it's, he's reaching out to you to get the information, which is very crucial. But that's not the case in Yammer. In Yammer, you would go to ask questions where people can respond on leisure. So you need to understand the difference between these tools, right? So you can participate and contribute on your own time, and inbox and views of it lets you catch you up later. So Yammer is meant for that kind of a purpose. Whatever you post there in Yammer, it's okay for you to come back later at a given point in time and then respond. But for Teams, you're talking about a topic which is relevant to your team, and you need to respond back to that as soon as possible. And the last thread is, it is built to capture knowledge, right? Say for instance, in your organization you have communities like photography, or say for instance you're talking about a particular technology and you want to create communities around that, right? For that, you would go ahead and create Yammer. You can use things such as hashtags, photos, announcements. There is a lot which Yammer has. And if you look at the product itself, right, so we have made a lot of changes to it, because earlier Yammer used to have its own storage, right? It used to have its own set of storage. Now Yammer, we said it is going to use SharePoint as its backend, right? You can have a Yammer connected Office 365 group. Then we shipped the new UI. Then we had live events in Yammer. Then there are a lot of new message translation. There is a lot that we have done in Yammer. It has plural expression, org-wide transparency, and serendipitous discovery is my favorite part, right? Now, what we mean by that is, say for instance, you're searching for something, you didn't find the answer. Maybe a couple of weeks back, you were searching for a different topic and accidentally you found the answer for a topic which you were searching last week or last month. That is what we mean by serendipitous discovery, right? By accidentally you discovered something. So Yammer is a tool which is meant for this kind of a purpose, wherein Teams is meant for a different goal in itself. So it's very important that you understand how we have kept these products. And when it comes to Kaizala, that is to empower the mobile workforce, right? So to have groups so that you can have public groups, you can post. It is mainly, we see a lot of focus on Kaizala on public sector, wherein state governments, central ministries and all, they invest a lot in Kaizala. So that's a point which I want to tell as a part of this session. And most of the updates which our speakers have shared today, some of them are still in early preview, most of them are still early work. But then if you go to the blog post which they have shared, you might see a link wherein, if at all you as a customer, if you're interested to be a part of that, you can go ahead and be a part of a TAP program. So you'll see an Office 365 form, it'll ask your details, just put it in, so that you'll see all these features coming to you, much more earlier than compared to other customers. So that's all we wanted to share in our session today. We've been taking, we are like 10 to 15 minutes ahead of our schedule. So now is the time for questions. I'm going to stop the recording. If at all you have any questions, please